Welcome to the Ambronite Superhero Podcast with Simo and This show is your backstage pass to discussions with world-class influencers in the field of health, nutrition, and high performance. We bring you the selected tips and insights that you can use to upgrade your life and become unstoppable.
Hello, fellow superheroes, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this episode, this very special episode of the Superhero Podcast. I'm your host, Simo and today I am joined on the podcast by a very special guest who knows a thing or two about optimizing human environments. We're going to talk about air, we're going to talk about performance, we're going to talk about the office of the future. Welcome to the show, Aki Soudunsaari.
Thanks, Simo. Great to be here, and I'm honored to be here to discuss with all the future trends and stuff that I'm really enthusiastic about.
So, Aki, how do you usually introduce yourself at a dinner party or at an event? I know you're up to a lot of things, so.
Well, yeah, depending who's there, of course. But I'm a health-related serial entrepreneur and really enthusiastic about human health, performance, and happiness. So I mean, building my education around that, but also my companies around that. So I'm just trying to be healthier and happier every day. So and then trying to teach or develop products and services to scale that.
So how did you get started on this track? When did you get informed and enthusiastic about health and human performance, and what's the story behind the phenomenon here?
Well, I grew up in northern part of Finland, in Lapland, where there's like 1.5 people per square kilometer, and there's not a lot of people there, and I grew up in nature, in the wilderness and in the pure surroundings of those forests and lakes. And I've always enjoyed nature, and I've been competing in different kind of sports until I was 18 or 19. Cross-country skiing, orienteering, running, all of those things. And from that kind of history, when you're trying to improve your competitive performance, you always come up with the holistic things, all the way from social to psychological to, of course, kind of more physiological stuff. And well, I was always interested in those, and at the same time always interested in human behavior. So later on I went to study to be a physical education and health science teacher, kind of behavioral background, and from those on more into the entrepreneurial world.
Exciting. And right now you are the CEO of NAAVA. Can you tell me a little bit about it? It's become a global phenomenon, known all around the world, from Europe to the US. So it's something that I'm actually standing in the very close proximity of. So could you explain to our listeners what's it all about and why the air that we breathe matters?
Well, yeah, we're now in front of our NAAVA there and breathing the almost chemical-free humidifier added air here, and enjoying the nature. And well, all of this came from the kind of the childhood, that even though I was growing up in the purest air in the world, according to the World Health Organization, in Lapland, I didn't appreciate it at the time. And later on, when I was traveling all around the world, especially in Asia, I kind of noticed that the air I breathed back then was a lot healthier. Like 5 years ago, I went for a run in Beijing and run for like two kilometers, and have to came back because of asthma problems there, even though I haven't had any asthma attacks in like 15 years. So kind of realizing that it's a privilege here in the Nordics to breathe the cleanest air. So and I had my own problems during my childhood and early adolescence. I studied in places where they had some problems with indoor air, and I had some symptoms like mucous membrane infections, and I lost my voice a lot, and some eye infections and stuff like that regularly when I was growing up, and also the same thing with the university time, and the kind of the idea how we can bring nature inside and all of those things came up about when I was a teacher in a school 2008 where there was a school that had some chemical problems, a new school. They had renovated the offices or the classrooms and so on, but I was teaching there like health sciences indoors and then physical education outdoors mostly, and I had these problems with my voice. I lost my I wasn't able to concentrate a lot, and I said things twice, and the people said that you already said that, and I didn't realize it. So those kind of pretty severe problems back then, and it used to repeat itself. Like from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock, I was inside, had some problems. From 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock outdoors, that I felt fine. So kind of then I was just thinking about that. How can we bring nature inside?
Right.
And I went back to study at the university. Then I met my co-founder Nico, who was back then doing some biological water cleaning, wastewater cleaning with algae, and kind of specializing in natural processes. Then we discussed that maybe we could combine those. That wastewater treatment facilities have been existing for 20-30 years, where they use microbes to clean or naturalize water. And now with the NAAVAs, we naturalize indoor air and clean air with the microbes. And actually nowadays we control the microbes with code. So we've been combining nature and technology a lot.
Very exciting. Why should people care about the air that they are exposed to in their daily life? What's the perspective there on health and performance?
Yeah. Well, if you think about what do you need as humans every day, so you eat around 1 kilo of food, you drink 2 kilos of liquids, but you breathe 15 kilos of air, and in the Western world you breathe 14 kilos of indoor air. So the effect of indoor air to your health and performance hasn't been fully realized yet. And we at NAAVA, we think that the air you breathe is the next global health trend, especially in the big mega cities all over the world, being it Beijing or even Madrid or London or whatever. So they always have some problems due to the density of people and then the traffic and so on. So that's gonna be the next scarce resource.
I can definitely second you there. Especially, I can very much relate to the story you told about China. I've been also attempting to go for a run in Shanghai and in Beijing, and it is pretty terrible. I mean, just running up a hill can be very exhausting, even for a fairly trained, fairly physically well-rounded individual, because of the or is it the pollutants, or is it the carbon monoxide, or is it just the sheer lack of oxygen in the air, or what's actually causing the acute symptoms of poor air?
Well, that's a good question, and it's always a combination of things. So, for example, in the mild kind of environment, a lot of people feel tired in the afternoon. It might be due to that they have eaten something that's causing kind of their body to kind of feel tired or something like that. But if you think about the air quality, a lot of people are sitting in an conference room where they feel that they run out of oxygen. Usually it's because that the chemical levels in the room has risen a lot, and that causes people to, would someone open the door, or would someone open the window, kind of a thing.
Right.
So it affects your brain kind of cognitive performance a lot. There's actually been really good studies done with that. We can come back to that later. But then if you look at the more kind of severe cases, there might be some that the chemical levels are high, or the particle levels are high, which are causing kind of, in the long run, a lot of problems to your health. And there are a lot of more things also in the indoor environment than just the air quality. The air humidity has a huge impact on your health that people haven't been realizing yet so much.
So when you look at larger cities, like you mentioned, well, obviously the Asian mega cities, but also say Los Angeles, which is essentially a city crazy about motor vehicles, crazy pollution, lots of smog gathering in the valley, and very little air moving through a very, very hot atmosphere. Not too much humidity. What are some of the types of problems that people can experience that would need to be fixed for a healthy and productive work environment and living environment?
Well, yeah, actually, Los Angeles has been one of the best examples that we can change the direction of the future. I think it was 1990 they had 250 smog days. Now they have, at least a few years ago, they had 6. So they've been changing it a lot, even though the traffic is huge there, even though Musk is now trying to build some tunnels there, but
Elon is doing his best to change things.
Yeah, I don't know, does it increase the traffic or not when they have more space there? But anyway, to your question, kind of what does it affect? There's a lot of research on indoor air quality and human health and performance. So cognitive performance, for example, they did a study in Harvard Medical School a little over a year ago, groundbreaking study it's a double-blinded study that they researched kind of average indoor office air, and then they researched kind of natural green air, kind of the air we have outside, and the end result was that the air you breathe has a significant impact to your cognitive performance, your kind of ability to work in crisis, to make strategy, kind of normal cognitive functioning tests. So it was up to 61% that had a impact on 61%, average.
61%, that's huge. Yes. On average?
Yeah, from average air to kind of natural air. And we all kind of feel that when you, at least when we live here in the Nordics, when you go for a run, you know that feeling when your thoughts fly and so on. It's a combination of course, the physical, hormonal things that happens in your body, but also the air you breathe here enables your thoughts to fly.
Right.
So at NAAVA, we want to kind of provide the natural air that is existing outdoors and bring it indoors. It's kind of an organic indoor air, if you can think about it, as natural air as possible. And all of this kind of the idea origins that we as humans, we've been evolving for the last, 100 or 200,000 years. We've been living in a sealed built environment for the last 50 years, 30 to 50 years, depending where you are. And our bodies hasn't evolved to that environment where they breathe a lot of off-gassing materials from glues and carpets and different chairs and stuff like that.
Yeah, like fire retardants that are present in basically every piece of furniture that we buy here.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things, and then the kind of man-made air that we have in the sterilized air that we breathe through the mechanical air ventilation systems, which might cause problems or might not cause. The basic idea that they bring fresh air in, that's always a good thing, of course. But there's a lot of sick buildings that have been existing for the last 40 years where they have some problems with indoor air and people feel tired there. So
it's not only the air outside that we're concerned with here, is it? It's also our somehow weird ability as humans to construct living environments where otherwise perfectly fine outdoor air becomes polluted or contaminated by the chemicals that we use indoors, like as I mentioned in furniture, or as you mentioned in the mechanical air circulation systems that we build into buildings. I mean, probably starting from the materials that we use in a essentially coating and painting our walls.
Yes, exactly.
And the dust that we bring in and so forth. So what you're saying here is that there's there's significant evidence of the air that we breathe affecting our decision making, affecting our cognitive ability, and I think that's massive, and not that many people talk about it. What do you think that is?
Well, it's one problem with the indoor air quality is that if your glass or your tea in front of you is dirty, you choose not to drink it. But if you cannot choose the air you breathe, or you cannot see the air you breathe, which is kind of it goes without saying that you breathe. So kind of when you don't know how to choose the air you breathe, it's pretty hard to make or be aware of it more and more.
Right.
So if you could see that the air here would be green or whatever or orange, you would choose not to breathe it. But that's one thing. And one regarding kind of again from the biological and evolutional point of view, there's more and more people kind of who are oversensitive to different chemicals. That's actually it was diagnosed as a disease a few years ago in Finland. But if you think about those really oversensitive people who cannot be in indoor spaces because it has some problems with their bodily mechanisms, but so that they are the people who sleep outside because they cannot be indoors. So they're so sensitive. But when they go to a forest, they feel fine. But if we take air samples from forests, there are 100 times more chemicals than indoor air, and there are molds and stuff like that outdoor air. But they don't feel any symptoms there. When they go inside, there are some again chemicals, a lot less chemicals, but they have big symptoms on those. So the problem is now that how can we bring the natural kind of components, natural chemical profile indoors as we have it in the forests and mountains, and get rid of those man-made chemicals, if you can say that, in the indoor space.
Very exciting, because it almost seems as if the purity of air is kind of not like the ultimate purity of air. As in to aim for some air that would be absolutely devoid of natural chemicals is not what we're going for here, is it? It's more about bringing the natural air that our ancestors used to breathe outdoors in the forest, which is filled with different kinds of chemicals, as I said, with starting from natural oils to the molds and to the pollen that's present there in the air from the plants and the trees so kind of mimicking that forest experience.
That's exactly kind of where we are heading at. That how can we create a natural indoor environment, as natural as possible, still being in the built environment. So how can we create health-enhancing offices or health-enhancing buildings in general? And always when you go to an extreme, like when you purify the water enough, it's not. You cannot drink it. It's toxic for you. Yeah, and
becomes like the stuff you pour into your car battery, devoid of all minerals, and it becomes actually harmful for the human body. I mean, it's poisonous. You can't drink that.
So the kind of my end goal, as I started with this, that my personal mission in this life is to improve people's health, performance, and happiness. I'm always trying to go around those, test things with myself and my body, and then of course try to scale the working things towards our team or towards the people that I'm in contact with.
So how about the health benefits? Have there been any quantified studies of people having less sick days, having less respiratory disease, or not even catching the flu? As having less of a likelihood of catching the flu if they're exposed to a healthier air in their office, in their home, in their life, or how do you look at this space in terms of the research on health?
Well, there's a lot of research and really sound research on the kind of problem air spaces and those what the effect have if you have a lot of chemicals or you have insufficient air ventilation system or you have some problems with the building, but there isn't so much from as I said, the Harvard Medical School study was a groundbreaking study because they investigated average air, not problem air,
Right.
and then the kind of natural air. So I think there's a lot of kind of loss of productivity in our everyday lives, in our average offices, in a way that you might feel tired. It might be because of the air quality, or the oxygen levels is one thing, but the resin chemical levels is one thing. And as I mentioned, the air humidity has a huge impact, especially here in the Nordics, where you have 4 seasons and the air is dry during the half of the year. And that's due to that. If you think about your for example, mucous membranes, if the air is dry, it dries up the micro kind of surface of that, in a lack of better word. And there's some micro cracks to the mucous membranes, and those micro cracks, when they're dry, then the viruses and stuff like that can go through that.
Right.
So if you keep more kind of a normal, maybe 30-40%, even higher, depending where you are, air humidity, you have a better health for your skin, but also for your kind of defensive system in many ways.
Okay, so it kind of having not enough moisture in the air exposes you to these immunity, or like lowers your immunity effectively. Yes. You become more vulnerable.
Yeah, and the more humidity you have in your air, the more the dust kind of falls down. The less particles you have in your air, and so on.
Right,
so
makes sense.
There's a lot of kind of benefits on that. But again, the kind of problem in the office environment or home environment, that how do you do that?
Sure.
There are these, we call them in UFOs in Finland, those kind of small UFO-shaped air humidifiers that you have.
Yeah.
Those are kind of good in a way, but then you use electricity, and then there's a problem with mold if you don't do that, and you have to increase the water all the time. That's one way to look at as how can you humidify the air.
Right. So that would be like an example of a basic humidifier where you actually pour some water and
yeah.
And what's the mechanism there? It vaporizes water slowly into the air, or
that's the kind of a old way to do it.
Right.
How we kind of look at this, because we want to build healthier and happier workplaces at NAAVA, so we wanted to look at the indoor environment as a whole. So what we are doing in our system with the NAAVA kind of active smart green wall, we humidify the air through the plants. So we water the plants, and there's a kind of inorganic growth medium where we can adjust the water levels and so on. So we can vaporize the air through the root zone of the plants and through the plants. So it's a natural humidifier in a sense, because it has such a huge impact on people's performance and so on.
So I think we now have to kind of dive into something that I've been wanting to discuss with you. I'm standing next to this wall with some. It has some fans. It has real plants. These are actually real growing plants that we're talking about here. And we also have some lights. I assume that they're of a special quality, since it can keep the plant flourishing and
humans also
feeling well, and humans well.
Yeah.
Humans as well, even in our office. So, and there's also a guy who stops by at the office every now and then.
Yeah.
So I would love to hear what's going on here. What's happening right beside me here with this wall.
Well, at NAAVA, our mission is to reconnect humanity with nature. So kind of we're stepping a few steps too far, kind of disrespecting nature and not kind of using nature in our everyday lives. So we're not in contact with nature in our everyday lives. And we want to kind of make a change in that. So we have developed these smart green walls where we control microbes in the root zone of the plants with code. So kind of combining technology and nature. So it's a biological filter cleaning air with microbes. So the microbes will break down harmful chemicals from indoor air and turning it to nutrition for the plants. So it ventilates air through the root system all the time. There are fans up there who are pushing the air back to the room. So it's a 24/7 biological filter that optimizes itself and uses nature as a part of a machine there.
So what you're saying here is that it's actually the bacteria in the roots of the plants that's the main component here, if you will.
Yes.
So what I'm seeing here is that these plants are kind of they're kind of popping out of this wall. We have some sort of soil in which they grow, and the fans of the ventilation is kind of pushing air through.
Yes. So we got rid of soil because soil has some problems with indoor air. They might cause mold when they're not taken care of, and the soil inhibits the air purification of plants, which is like no one knows that. So when we wanted to bring nature inside, and we wanted to have the natural air that you have in the forests indoors, we researched that how plants purify air. And NASA had been studying in the 70s and 80s how plants would purify air in space stations.
Right.
And they did a longitudinal studies there, and they found out, for example, that 98% of the plant's air purification happens in the microbes in the root zone of the plants, not in the leaves that people think.
Yeah, that's the common conception,
It
right?
is.
The greener the leaves,
Yeah.
and the more leaves, the better, because the
Yeah.
leaves are the ones that purify air. Wrong. So
So-
so this is a myth. So the actual purification happens in the roots.
Yes, and that's part of our kind of secret sauce that we develop is this inorganic growth medium where we have 7 to 8 different ingredients. Then we do biological and chemical things to that. We call it growth medium. So we activate microbes in the growth medium with this biological and chemical stuff, meaning that this is a wastewater treatment facility, but on indoor air.
Right.
And the plants are kind of good-looking part of the machine. Actually, the plants don't have anything to do with the air purification here. We need those plants as a part of the kind of ecosystem here, but the actual machine is inside of these, and then we of course want to bring nature inside as a whole. So that's why we have good-looking plants with a good-looking light that keeps the plants healthy. And actually, that's one of the topics that I would like to discuss today for people's performance and health. Nature has a huge impact.
Oh, definitely.
So kind of seeing nature and there's a scientific phenomenon called biophilia, love of living things, and people's kind of natural tendency to when they have a window, they look outside of it. They want to be in their cabins. They want to have surround themselves with wooden tables or whatever kind of natural things.
Yeah, we're actually having a standing desk session here with a wooden table in
Yes.
front of us, which is also, I guess, a sign of this biophilia phenomenon.
It is. So people love it, and there's a lot of robust scientific studies on that. What kind of effect does it have on your creativity or problem-solving skills? And like 15% of those, there was a big study done that you have a 15% better cognitive performance and a lot of other traits when you see nature. Just by seeing nature is one thing.
So just hacking your productivity by 15% is possible by just being in nature, seeing nature.
Yes.
Just having living things around the office, like a wooden table, some plants, or even office pets. I think even that might be a phenomenon. People feel
Exactly.
better when they have a puppy or a few cats running around the office and their home and in their life.
Yeah, and things like natural light, enough natural light, there's a huge impact on your health. And for example, if you're now sitting in your cubicle, hopefully not cubicle, but sitting in your office, kind of where do you head your table? Or of course you have your screen there, but even if you have some view on the nature, that would have a huge impact on your health and performance, especially cognitive performance. So keep in mind for that. Also, kind of thinking about how does the indoor environment affect your health. You have not many of us think that you have a microclimate in front of your desk or where you have your computer, and there are some studies done that if you really have that cubicle kind of walls, the microclimate inside of the cubicle, because the air doesn't circulate not so much in there. And when you have a computer, there's always a fan there, so it actually provides a lot of chemicals and particles, the machines that we use. And if you have those walls around you, you will have a lot drier air with a lot of chemicals and problems with that.
Right.
So kind of, if I think about the productivity hacks, kind of your microclimate around you, you have enough fresh air, you open the valves in your windows if you have those for the fresh air intake, or you position yourself that you see nature, or you have the fresh intake from the air ventilation system right in front of you.
So, speaking of productivity hacks, what does your own workstation or kind of a preferred office setup look like? Now that you mentioned taking care of that your computer vents or all the electronics that you use aren't the sole source of air that or don't have the opportunity of saturating the air around you with chemicals that come from within or without drying the air, opening up your vents wherever you're working. Hopefully you have something of a semblance of a window to open every now and then, or even working completely outdoors. So what does your own setup look like?
Well, we're now moving into a new office where we try to kind of we try to get all of the small things right there. So the physiological, psychological, social kind of impact on that. So we're trying to build this Health 2.0 office. In our office right now, I don't have a view on nature. So that's why I have, of course, NAAVA, one of our products there as the kind of the view on, or the window to nature, of course. Then, of course, I try to maximize the fresh air intake through the windows and those kind of fresh air valves, I think that they're called in English. Of course, NAAVA will take most part of that, and I can really feel the difference when, for example, the water has run out in our system and it's not been on for the weekend or so. So it has a huge impact on that. But I have a normal standing desk, so I try to change, every hour or two the position I'm in. And actually, I'm trying to kind of understand better those kind of the biohacks that your body tells you. So, for example, if you need to change your sitting position, it's time for stand up. That's kind of a natural biohack from your body, signals that okay, my buttocks are now kind of in pain, or the air doesn't
getting
flow.
Numb, or like feeling like shifting positions. You should stand up instead of shifting positions again.
Exactly, and then when your feet are tired from standing, sit down. So it's not kind of standing in the same position for 7 hours has actually pretty much the same impact that sitting 7 hours. So it's kind of changing.
It becomes detrimental as well.
Yeah. So those kind of small things are of course important, and then I try to change every like a few hours the work environment where I am. So I'm not tied into one position, and we try to do that in our offices all the time, that we don't have our kind of own desks in a way. Of course, people prefer some of those, but we try to change it as much as possible. Also for the kind of for your head and your kind of creativity and so on, changing the environment for different kind of stimulus to your head. Then there's of course the nutritional stuff that I've been trying to understand from my body point of view a lot, and then for example I use this app called Calm.com, which is a really cool kind of natural sounds, meditation and so on.
Yep.
I try to do that every now and then. Then I'm kind of equipped with a lot of the different technology. I have a Oura ring for.
Yeah, I noticed you're wearing your Oura right now.
Yes, I am. So I've been kind of from the competitive cross country point of view. We used then different kind of 15 years ago, 20 years ago, they want a lot of these biohacking tools that you could do, but we try to try to do as much as possible then. And then during the last 10-15 years, that's been exploding a lot. So I'm not kind of obsessive with all the technology, but I try to understand my body better by using this technology. So the Oura Ring or the Fitbit I have, or my phone, or I use the first beat technologies regularly. So I try to understand what my body tells me, because, well, my body is the only place that I have to live. So as we all know,
that's very true. How do you use your Oura in your? Can you share with our listeners what it's all about to you?
Well, yeah. Well, sleep is one of the most important things that what
we're talking about here is a tracker that you wear on your finger. So it's a wearable tracker for HRV and other biometrics.
Yes.
That you can wear as a ring. It is essentially a ring. So it's very, very compact.
Yeah, and this measures my sleep activity and kind of readiness level. So when you in this high-paced growth engineering game that we are at NAAVA and growing fast in international markets, of course, I need to make sure that I'm able to perform my best all the time, also for my family or for my friends and so on, not just for the work environment. But well, this monitors my, as I said, sleep activity and readiness, and then I can see kind of feedback from this ring or my app that what I've been doing yesterday and how does it compare to like the last 30 days or so. So when my readiness level drops down, I might not go to the gym tomorrow morning.
Right.
So those kind of small habits that we want to do. And well, based on this data and of course our daily activity things in the office, we try to there's a lot of biohacking small details, habits that we do in the office. We do some meeting push-ups when people are tired, or we take a lot of walking meetings and
that's great.
And hydration is one of the most important things that you can do for your kind of biohacking. So I read a study a few years ago that it has like a 12% impact on your cognitive performance if you're mildly dehydrated.
Yeah, pretty much everyone is at some point of the day, exactly. Really.
And if you think about those kind of biological hacks that you can do, or the measurement, I have a ring here that measures stuff, but if you think about you go into the toilet and kind of monitoring what's the color of your urine, is it greenish or yellow, or is it kind of see-through? Or
just transparent. I mean, like that's just basic human operations, really, like monitoring your inputs and outputs.
Maybe someone will make an app for that, kind of taking a picture of your urine and then giving it. But again, kind of making your performance better. If I have a urine which is yellowish or something like that, I always drink a lot of water. And keeping yourself hydrated is one of the best hacks that I could kind of give to people. And well, nutrition is one, of course, but different small habits to your health. And there's this psychological or social psychology study that learning new habits, you need to do it 5 times, like with force, or you have to kind of consider that you need to do a new thing for 5 times. Then you have the kind of then it's more likely that you win than you fail, but you need to do it 21 times to make it automatic.
Right.
That's like the number from the study, that if you do one new habit 21 times, then it's automatic and you don't have to kind of force yourself into it. So you have to have long nerves when you're trying to find new things to improve your everyday life.
Yeah, overcoming that habitual inertia, if you will. I've also heard that a couple of times, like ranging from anywhere from 21 to 30 to 40 repetitions, something in that range, or doing or incorporating new habit into your mornings for 3 or 4 weeks. Typically, seems to be a recurring term or a recurring time window in literature when you look at these studies. I've always found it fascinating just being able to incorporate small good decisions in your daily life, and I think much of this also comes down to a first understanding yourself and realizing what needs to be changed, and then making those changes actionable. But to be honest, before we had the this green wall in the office, I mean, and
it's called
really,
NAAVA.
yeah, and what we're really looking at here is a kind of you mentioned a window to nature. I think it really is that, because I find myself often during work days just feeling better looking at this green window.
Yeah.
What we're talking about here is after all it is like a 6 feet tall wall of green stuff. It's what are these plants actually? I forgot to ask you previously.
Yeah, the plants are found from anywhere around the world, and those are kind of normal plants that even my grandma used to say in the 70s that they clean air. So they're
Right.
known for that. Most of them are kind of jungle plants, and then we get rid of the soil and then install them to our growing pots with our growth medium, and then use it as a part of the machine there.
Sure.
And
So because what I'm really feeling here is that this is a very actionable thing to do for yourself, for your office, for your living environment. We used to have this air purifier. Actually, I think we still do, like an HEPA filter, air ionizer, and I think it also does something to the air moisture. How do devices like that? We already talked about the basic air humidifier a bit, like the classical one that you have to fill with water yourself, and it vaporizes the air or the moisture into the air. So how do these different technologies stack up against each other and how should someone willing to improve their air quality and their living conditions, their productivity indoors, go about this? Because there's a vast array of technology there.
There is, yeah. So if you look from the machine point of view, we Finnish are usually engineering-based people. I'm not an engineer, so I can just oversimplify things. So this machine is an air purifier, air humidifier, and a green wall, and it's combined with it's fully automatic. So all you need to do is add water every 2 or 4 weeks, depending on the season. It has a integrated watering system, air ventilation system, lighting system. It sends data every 5 minutes to our cloud, and in the cloud there's artificial intelligence optimizing your air quality and humidity all the time. So it's not a kind of a stupid machine which is just doing something. It's trying to understand, and it's actually connected to the weather satellites also. So because the outdoor weather has a huge impact on your humidity, for example. So yesterday there was like -6 Celsius degrees. Now you have -15 outdoors. So yesterday, I think it's on the line here. Does it? It might do it in this. If it was like 25 degrees outdoors, it would yesterday start humidifying the air, because the NAAVA knows that tomorrow the air is gonna be not optimal for your human health.
Wow! So it's actually optimizing based on what's going to happen tomorrow in the weather, as well as the fact that we're here, two carbon-based life forms, transforming this air that we're breathing now into something that contains more carbon dioxide. So what it's doing, it's sensing that.
Yes.
And you're saying that it's optimizing the air quality as we are affecting it.
Yes, it does. So
wow, that's actually a lot more exciting than I imagined, because that's a very proactive approach.
Well, that's the kind of from my background, from the health and kind of all the way to the kind of master's degree in sport and health sciences. It's all about preventive health, and here also it's all about preventing, kind of making the indoor environment as healthy as possible to humans, as we can do it here with our current technology. In the future, we will do a lot more here, and trying to understand it even better. So, and this is all kind of because of the help of technology. We couldn't do it here, and we always say that nature is much more smarter than an engineer, in a way that if you think about mechanical air purifiers, they are good ones and they are needed. NAAVA doesn't do all the things that a really good, high quality mechanical air purifier can do, even especially in those like really polluted cities or factories or whatever. We cannot do that with our one. We are specializing in these kind of normal, average kind of indoor air environment. It's not for the high kind of polluted stuff. It's for the indoor and stuff and so on.
Sure.
But
so it's not like a factory purifier, of course, because I assume those challenges might be very different from our everyday offices, hopefully.
Yeah. And kind of comparing again to the mechanical air ventilation systems or the filters there, they are designed to do what the engineer has designed. And in a lot of those, for example, when you have some problems with indoor air, you don't know what's the reason. You take some indoor air samples, take it to the lab. Result is that there's nothing wrong with it. It might be the small nuances in the chemical cocktail that might cause you some problems, or me some problems, or the third guy some problems, and some of us react to it, and someone doesn't. So, for example, when you're in the springtime in the field of flowers, I might feel the best, but if you have some allergies, you don't feel your best.
Sure.
But there's nothing kind of wrong with the flowers in that way. So it's that our bodies are reacting differently. Same goes with the indoor air quality. I'm oversensitive to chemicals, and that's one of the reasons that we started this company, to bring nature inside in that way. So it's always depending on who's there and how do they think about it.
Sure. So from a biohacker's perspective, and with all the knowledge that you've gathered, what are some of the basic steps or suggestions someone could do to improve their living environment air quality, be it at the office or at home?
Well, the first thing is to think about it. So in our everyday lives, we go on most likely that we don't think about the indoor environment surroundings, being that, for example, that if you could choose to see the nature from the window, but you are kind of getting yourself to the corner and looking at the corner of the cement wall there, it's not good for you. You might have the option already, so kind of waking up for those. Surrounding and having kind of an everyday interaction with nature might be one of the most important hacks that you can create. Being it walking in a nature or seeing in nature, even though office plants are better than not having plants there. So surrounding yourself in nature, and of course kind of doing natural things. As I started the kind of conversation here, my point of view is to how can we understand better that Aki that lived 10,000 years ago, and what was how the body has evolved, and how can we create that kind of a natural environment in many ways, natural behaviors. Hormones is one of the things that are leading us, and we don't understand our hormones a lot. So why I'm pissed at some point, it might be just that I'm hungry or I've been sitting there for 4 hours or whatever it is. So understanding our body is one of the key issues here, and I don't have a trick for that, but it might be just listening our bodies and then using technology like we try to do to understand our bodies better. So for example, due to the 10,000 or 20,000 hours of using heartbeat monitor back in the 90s, skiing in the nature, I know by like five beat accuracy what's my heart rate in when I do exercise stuff and so on. So kind of you learn that way.
Right, you're saying without a meter right now.
Yeah,
so you now have developed that intuition
yes.
from your background in cross country skiing. That's fascinating. Yeah. I think that's actually an amazing example of how employing technology can at some point make that technology redundant. You don't need that heart rate monitor anymore.
Exactly.
You've developed that intrinsical sense of what your body is doing, what's happening with your heart rate.
And as an example, kind of with the Oura and what's the sleep monitoring?
Beddit,
yes.
or MFitQS, or
Beddit. I've been using those. So
you're also a user of Beddit.
I've been using that for 2 years.
I'm too.
I really love these kind of machines in a way. And if you think about because I'm an obsessive learner in many ways. So I try to understand my behavior, people's behavior, and so on, and what does it affect into those kind of principles of biology, meaning those hormones or whatever it is. And in the morning I have this. This is like sick in many ways, but when I woke up, I try to guess what's my readiness level based on how I feel, and then see it from the aura or see it from body, kind of those kind of things. So
that's fascinating. So first you're making kind of a self-evaluation,
yes,
and then seeing how close to the truth it lands, depending on your bedded sleep tracking HRV sensor or what else? Which other metrics do you use to verify that kind of a guess or estimate?
Well, yeah, with the sleeping, I use those two, and then I've used the first beat.
I do. Can you tell to your audience what it's about?
It's a heart rate variability meter that you use. It's been developed through the last 20 years, and it kind of it measures your stress levels, sleep, also some kind of activities. It's not really part of that. It's been used in all the tier 1 baseball, Formula 1, ice hockey, NBA, all of those. Like I think they have like 50 tier 1 sports clubs in the world using those.
So
also
essentially,
in Formula 1.
So essentially, I guess what they're doing there is measuring their state of recovery in the morning to optimize their workouts or training.
Yes, all of those. The difference between these kind of rings and wearables is that you use it for 3 days, and you can adjust these meters to your chest. And
the electrodes and measure those for 3 days, I guess.
3 days, 3 to 5 days, depending on that. So I use it like almost quarterly right now. But it's not as easy as you have these kind of things. The aura is not as extensive as that one, but it's easy to do it when you can have it on your head.
Sure, you're wearing it all the time, basically.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yes. So those kind of small things. I have a Wi-Fi connected Fitbit the scale, so I try to kind of understand the activity from my Fitbit, and then the scale of what does it impact the weight and stuff like that. I've been fortunate enough to have a kind of stable weight, so it's not a problem for me. It might be helpful for people that have some fluctuations in their weight, but I usually been weighing almost the same for the last 10 years.
Right.
But then the nutrition is of course one thing, and I've been previously kind of coaching different CEOs and leaders in companies to kind of enhance their everyday health and so on. So we usually start from the rhythm of how do you eat and what do you eat exactly. And again, I'm a simple man, so I try to simplify things a lot. But if you look at the protein synthesis of your body, it's like every 3 hours there's a kind of a bodily mechanism in your body called protein synthesis, where you use protein to kind of repair the cells and stuff like that. If the amino acid pool is empty of proteins, it doesn't turn on in a way. And so you need to have protein every 6 times throughout the day. So the most simple kind of nutritional biohack is that have for a guy like me, it's 25 to 30 grams of protein every 3 hours. That's it. And if you do that, then you have a more kind of healthier diet in as a kind of
kind of a byproduct.
Exactly, yeah. So if you have that kind of rule of thumb, a heuristic rule in that way, you will be healthier for sure. And calculating calories or thinking about all the details, what kind of acids do you use and so on, that might confuse people. And some people like it, but if you think about the general audience, rule of thumb for my eating is that 25 grams of protein when I eat.
Yeah,
that's usually goes without saying. Yesterday I eat at McDonald's, so depending on how do you do it and so on, I try to watch what I eat from the kind of, again, the natural body point of view, biology point of view, to understand that one. But of course, it's the 90% that you eat that matters.
Exactly, and developing that baseline as you build these habits.
Exactly.
As long as your baseline is high enough, it doesn't really matter if you have occasional transgressions there.
Yes.
And I'm just really thinking about how to in a way employ this 80-20 rule to hacking your environment in terms of air and biohacking your air quality. Would that be starting from not only taking the walks but also just making sure your office is cleaned up, or opening up your windows, or getting an air purifier of sorts, or what are the top 3 things that anyone could do to hack their office quality today, or air quality today?
Well, make sure you have enough fresh air. So that's maybe the most important thing, because air is the kind of fuel for your brain. So if you think about that, that's really important. Using those kind of chemical-rich cleaning materials, or not the materials, but
cleaning agents, or
yes.
like soaps and detergents.
That's not good for your health in any case. So I'm trying to use like mild soap stuff to clean things, or just water. That's good. And one really exciting or thing that no one understands, or 99% doesn't understand or take a look at it, is the perfumes you wear.
Sure.
So for example, it is a big one. It is a big one because I'm oversensitive to chemicals, and I try to keep as clean air as possible around my microclimate here all the time. We have a rule at NAAVA. We have 55 now 60 people in our company, and no one wears perfumes. Or if you wear it, you don't like spray it all over. And I always say that if you have if you wear a lot of perfumes, your own microclimate is like same as you would wear a bucket of paint under your nose.
Wow.
So you're breathing chemicals all the time, and it has an impact through the lungs and so on, but also through your skin. So that's like really important small details. So what do you wear in that way? And I said it. This is humor, at least partly humor, but if you think about the Christmas gift that people buy, they buy some colognes or perfumes there, and you might kind of give people asthma for Christmas,
right?
In the longer run,
because you're giving them exposure to these chemicals that you're essentially wearing every day.
Yeah,
maybe.
And they understand the kind of chemicals. I have one kind of example that if you have those mucus kind of stuff in your nose and throat and your eyes and so on. So if you have an example, kind of what does chemicals do to your health? You might want to try it out if you pour some whiskey to a glass and then put your eye in kind of above the glass. You cannot keep your eye open for a long time because of the off-gassing chemicals from the whiskey. So that's an example. A lot of those off-gassing chemicals are alcohols, off-gassing from, again, those materials or glues or paints or whatever. And that's kind of 24/7 affecting your health. So you're absorbing those chemicals all the time. So trying to keep it as natural surroundings as possible is kind of my advice on that. How do you do it? Try to take the fresh air. Try to adjust the humidity level, or at least monitor it, and then use kind of wisely all the chemicals around you.
I think those are some great tips. It's been a real pleasure talking to you, and I really want to be respectful of your time. We will definitely be enjoying our newly purified air here at the
naturalized air.
Naturalized air here at the office, and as a keen outdoorsman and as a keen student and adventurer in the outdoors, it's definitely something that I could relate to with these tips. I could add a few more of my own that I like to do.
All right. What are those?
Some of the things that I've personally found very helpful is taking working outdoors even because I have this portable desk that I oftentimes take into the park next to us. Right now we have a park right next to us here. At our previous location, we had a small piece of forest there. So what I did would be I had a rechargeable battery even for that setup. I could work like 4 or 5 hours straight, and that was amazing. And having even some of these phone calls with people with birds singing in the background, I feel like it really relaxes the senses there, and also definitely improves the air quality. And one thing that I also like to do is just plain and simple work with the windows open. Like for example here just opening up the windows. I don't know what it does to the mechanical air circulation. It's probably something that our landlord wouldn't approve of, but I feel like my productivity skyrockets. Not only because of the air quality, but because of the sensory input that I get. It's like the clean wind and the sunlight on my skin and everything else. So I really feel that those do play a part in my personal productivity and happiness, at least.
Exactly, and I think the kind of main idea here is that how can you use nature as a part of the biohacking stuff, and being that you work at the park every now and then, and take a walking meeting with your friends to the park or whatever you have near you. So kind of those small details in everyday lives, and we as kind of biohackers we use a lot of technology. But at the same kind of proportion can we use nature. So that's kind of my point on this, and trying to understand humans as kind of biological creatures and animals also. And unfortunately, especially a lot of kind of tech CEOs or guys, they see their bodies as a way to transfer their head to the meeting, to the next meeting. So kind of. Trying to be more in contact with your nature and your biology and think about those small details.
Yeah, definitely those are the sources of superpowers as we see everywhere these days. Aki Soudunsaari, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure having you on the show. And where can people find you or reach out to you online or offline?
Yeah, of course. You can easily start by visiting our website at naava.io. And see the stories there. Actually,
that's NAAVA .io.
Yeah, it's a Nordic brand, so it's hard to spell it. Not too hard to spell it, but so NAAVA.io.
Okay. And nowadays you also have a presence in New York.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. We started. We have a NAAVA factory there in the US, and working through the New York City, New Jersey area right now, and then hoping to scale to California and possibly Miami and those kind of locations in the near future.
Awesome. And do you have a personal account or Twitter or blog where you discuss these topics?
Well, yeah, I have almost as easy surname that you have in the international surroundings. So yeah. So
we'll include that in the show notes.
We'll at Soudunsaari, which is my surname. So you can try to spell it out if you can. But
you can pick it up from the podcast topic and as well as visiting our show notes.
Perfect.
Thank you so much, Aki. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Simo.
Thanks for listening to the Ambronite Superhero Podcast. Please check out the links, show notes, and other episodes at ambronite.com/podcast. That's AMBRONITE.com/podcast. Thanks again, and catch you in the next episode.